Welcome back to Suburban Black Girl, episode 44. I literally forgot that quick.
Today we're talking about friendships and red flags. So we're talking about friendship red flags we don't talk about enough. And I feel like why not talk about friendships? I think it's a topic that comes up often with us just navigating life and having girlfriends in our life and going through certain situations. So why not talk more about the red flags that we go through or have gone through in the past with female friendships?
Yeah. And I also think like with life's ups and downs, and especially like dating ups and downs, I feel like a lot of times as an adult, like your friends are your one constant. And I just feel like they're such a big part of our lives. And I feel like sometimes that's the difference between us and men. Sometimes, especially with this whole male loneliness epidemic, I feel like we're better about finding, I don't know, like fullness from our close relationships. And I think a lot of that involves, our female friends. So,
No, I totally agree with that because I generally love my girlfriends, where I'm like, wow, like I love you so much. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, I don't think men love their homeboys the way we love our female friends.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of us, our love is so deep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that it's so important and such a valuable relationship to have.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
grateful for the girls. Well, shall we get into it?
Indeed.
All right. What are some friendship red flags you ignored in the past because you thought, oh, that's just the way they are?
I've said this before, but definitely, having friends that are jokesters. And I also just think like that's how we are as Black people, period. I feel like we don't take anything seriously. We're always clowning each other, always roasting each other. For a long time, I thought certain aspects of that were normal, which it is. Like we all, kiki and laugh at one another. But I think there's a certain way that people can go about it where it's a red flag. I think it's one thing to make fun of each other a little bit in a light-hearted, playful, fun shade sort of way. But I think one red flag to look for sometimes is when people are going out of their way to throw shade and it's like in front of other people, in a way to try to embarrass you. I think that's a little bit different. I would say one. And two, if the fun shade is something that maybe there shouldn't be shade around, if it's like something that you're really excited about or something that you're really proud about and somebody's trying to clown you or roast you for it, or if you're trying to do something that's outside of the box or outside of your comfort zone, then I feel like that's a red flag, also, because I feel like somebody should have the emotional intelligence to see or want to support you, in you doing something that's outside the box. And I personally don't feel like that's the time to throw shade.
No, I agree. Like I'm honestly extremely hesitant of the friends that always kind of like throw shade because I feel like there is some truth to that shade they're throwing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I watch often with certain people when it's like, I was just telling you right before we got started filming, is certain people may say something to me time and time again where it's like, okay, so you really feel that way. Like what is truly the issue with that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I feel like there's truth to all of it. And I definitely think about, well, who is it coming from? And, there are friends where I've had to keep them more at a distance because I'm like, you always have something to say and it doesn't really feel negative. And in my opinion, if I'm a friend, I'm not really a jokester like that because I know how it hurts my feelings sometimes if people constantly joke with me. So I feel as though if I'm not really joking with you, why are you always joking or like kind of poking at me?
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I feel like that's just common what people do. But now that we're older, I just don't always think that's okay, especially depending on like the circumstance, like you're saying, or like actually you kind of know I was hurt in that moment. So why would you bring that back up and joke about it?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So I would say that. I would also say, and we've talked about this before too, but people that are male-centered, I just don't think you can't be a girl's girl and be male-centered.
Say that again.
Yeah. And so that's definitely a red flag, but also for obvious reasons, but also I feel like I find that the people that are just make terrible decisions, period. And I feel like they often like don't have their lives together. and this is not to bash men, but I just feel like when they are the focal point of your life often does not end well. Like, put yourself first,
Yeah.
you know, and then deal with the relationship or whatever. But I feel like anytime you put them first, you see a woman's life in shambles. And it's just like, you don't want those types of people around you. Or I feel like sometimes if somebody is male centered and you're not, they start looking at you sideways. Like, why don't you want to do X, Y, and Z?
Right.
And it's like, why do you want to do that?
Right.
Like, why do you want to stay in this club until the lights come on? To me, that's embarrassing. Get me out of here before the lights come on. Like, I do not want to be the last person in the club.
No, for real. Because, Sean, nothing good happens at the end. Everyone wants to touch and grab and be like,
but it's also like, in reality, if I'm a man and you're still in the club till the lights come on, to me, that means you're ready to keep it going. You're ready to open something else when everything else is closed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
my father's always said, only the hoes stay out after midnight. I'm like, dang, but I be out sometime. I be out sometime after midnight.
Midnight? Okay.
No,
yeah, that's a different generation.
Exactly. He's just so old school. Yeah.
Well, that and like, I went to college in New York City. We didn't leave until midnight because things don't close until 4. So, but I get his point. And also, I heard an older man say once, he said, if you're looking for a hoe, the best time to go out is when it's raining, because he said only the hoes are desperate enough to go out when it's raining.
Well, honestly, there's been some college nights where I'm like, why am I like, I have barely any clothing on and it's raining. And you know how the saying goes where it's like, something about with like hoes in the cold or something like that.
Oh, hoes don't get cold.
Yeah, hoes don't get cold. And I always used to think that those LA nights, Jesus, like what is wrong? But that is so true.
I will say that's the exception. I like that saying, hoes don't get cold. I just say it as a joke now.
Of course, yeah.
When I actually am outside and I'm trying to be cute without my jacket on, I'm like, hoes don't get cold.
Literally.
No, I'm not. Oh.
Literally, that's literally what I told myself, because I'm like, just keep looking cute,
It's
girl.
like real G's don't get cold is how I look at it. But
yeah. But it's interesting you say that if a woman is kind of, you know, putting a man first and putting her life in the hands of a man, like her life could basically end in shambles. And that's a great point.
Yeah.
That's tough. But yeah, no, I do totally agree with that. And you know, when I think of those red flags of friendships, it would be when other people have come to me about that person, like, hey, I don't know about so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
And I have that happen to me often, to where, you know, I'm not the type of person where I will tell you the bad about a friend. I'll let you assess for yourself, because I want everyone to have a clean slate when they meet each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because I never want to feel as though, is my opinion about that person biased? So I love to give people the benefit of the doubt when they get to meet a new friend of mine or whatever. But it's happened to me time and time again where, you know, I may have another close friend tell me about another new friend I may have, or whatever it may be, or maybe I'm dealing with a man. And it's one of those things where, you know, it's like, dang, they've been saying this. And when the friendship finally falls out, it's like, but I already been told you that. And it's like, dang. So for me, that's one of those signs that I'm taking into consideration a lot sooner, when I'm kind of hearing the same opinion about you when it comes to my other friends. I'm like, yeah, no, like I can no longer be as close with you, because it always sadly ends up the way that that friend said it would.
Well, that, and when a friend comes to you and is like, oh, so-and-so said X, Y, and Z about you, it's like, why did they feel comfortable talking shit about me to you?
True.
I feel like that's another one, is like, well, what have you said to them about me that they feel comfortable even saying something to you that they think you might not bring back to me, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that is kind of like messy, because sometimes I think people do that to see, it's like, okay, well, let me talk to her friend about that and see if her friend feels the same way about that situation, how I feel about it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is definitely a red flag, and it's very telling.
Yeah. And that also just reminded me too, I feel like people that are messy, period. Because I think, you know, and how I always say people's behavior doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's just like, at a certain point, if somebody's being overly messy all the time, like, you're going to get dirty hanging around them. You know what I mean? I just think people who, like, something is always happening to them. It's like, at a certain point, at what point is it your fault?
And in those people's eyes, never.
At what point is it self-inflicted?
Of course.
You know, I feel like life happens, shit happens, obviously. But like, I feel like we all have that one friend where something is always happening in them. And it's like,
yeah.
okay, at what point could you have done something to prevent this?
Like, at what point are you no longer the victim? Because I'm like, so once again, it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe we all have faults in the situations that we go through, regardless. Like, there's always something that you could have done differently, said differently, reacted differently. And that's just kind of like one of the hard truths I had to swallow with myself. I'll never forget. Growing up, I used to be like full of excuses as to why I didn't get something done or do something. Like, that was so me. Like, if you told me to do something, I was going to have a rebuttal as to why it wasn't done, whether it was school, at home, whatever. Like, I always had something to say back. And I'll never forget my one 7th grade teacher told me when I didn't complete a really big assignment, and I was giving him this reason as to why, hoping he would understand where I was coming from. And he just was like, it's as simple as like, he's like, Ashlyn, that's the choice you made. And he's like, in life, as simple as that, right? In life, we have choices. So every choice that you make, it has an outcome.
Yes.
Right?
Every action has a consequence.
Yes. And so ever since he told me that, I'm like, it's so true with everything in life. Like, there is a reaction and an outcome for every choice that we make, regardless if it's good or bad. So
yeah, and valid. Very valid.
Too valid sometimes. Have you ever been emotionally dumped on by a friend, but they never created space for your feelings?
I feel like I have a friend who will call me or blow up my phone sometimes when like she needs advice or, you know, a listening ear. And I feel like she will hear me when I need to vent, but I don't feel like she listens very well. If that makes sense. Like, I feel like when I need advice or to vent, sometimes she can be like distracted or, you know, just give very generic responses. And yeah, I think sometimes that can bother me. But yeah, I don't think I have any friends where it's like completely one-sided, where like nobody's, you know, there for me in return. But yeah, I think I definitely have that one friend where it's just like, okay, I'm not even going to bother venting to you because you're just half-ass listening.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And I think we have friends where you know that you can kind of open up to, and you have friends where you know that sadly, like, you're not going to get that same return back if you open that Pandora's box. And so for me, like, I definitely know the friends that are going to understand where I'm coming from by giving me like positive reinforcement or giving me good advice, rather than maybe like trying to tear me down or be like trying to dig deep and stir the pot more of the drama, or kind of like preying on my downfall. You know what I mean? So I'm very cautious of what I tell certain people when I'm going through things. But I definitely think with that, you just have to learn like who you can tell certain information to, which we always talk about before, right? I think you do have to categorize your friends based on, is this information that I can share with you, especially when it comes to your deep, dark things? Will you go and tell other friends about this thing? Or will you hold it against me in the future when we maybe have an issue and you kind of bring it back on me, where it's like, why are you trying to bring this up now? Like, that's so weird. So I definitely think it's a lot of different considerations for me. But, you know, I think a lot of things I truly go through, I don't tell that many friends about, just because no offense, it doesn't make me feel better afterwards.
I know. Yeah, that's how I feel with that one friend. It's like, I could have done without this whole conversation.
Yeah. Or like, let's talk about it when you're dealing, say you're in somewhat of a toxic relationship or situationship with a man, and you're trying to go to your friend to kind of dig you out the hole, and she's getting you more turned up to where she's like, girl, just pull up at his house, or da-da-da-da. So you have to watch those type of friends too, where it's like, I'm heated and I'm coming to you to cool off, and you're just making me more upset and more angry, to where I'm like, I'm ready to rat-ta-ta-ta.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And also, I've definitely, and I think that might be maybe not that specifically, but I feel like I've had red flags in friendships where, yes, it was somebody that I probably had no business dealing with anymore. And it was just like, oh, give him another chance, da 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 da. And then meanwhile, I have another friend that's like, why would you ever tell her that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
But I will say the friend that said, oh, give it another chance was a male-centered friend. So add that to the list of reasons as to not have those kinds of friends because, or at the very least, do not seek to them for male advice because they'll probably have you, advise you to stay in a situation you have no business staying in.
But honestly, that is a great point that you bring up because it's just me thinking about the friends that I know are more male centered and I tell them the situation versus one of my friends that's not male centered. You get completely
They'll encourage you
different.
to forgive
Correct.
more.
To forgive, to pop off, to go out and meet someone new or like text a different ex or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great point of just being careful and mindful of your friends that are male centered and coming to them for relationship advice.
Mm-hmm. I think on the flip side too, I feel like in past situations I don't want to say felt helpless, but like when you have somebody like that venting then to you and you just are looking at them like, do you not want better for yourself? Or maybe you should go to therapy. Maybe you should take a break from dating. And it's just like they go to continue to suffer, do the complete it's
Yeah.
like, then what do you do? Because eventually, at the same time, and this is a whole nother conversation, like at what point do you get tired of telling them the same thing over and and over again? And like, what is the line with that and being a good friend? Like, does a good friend just always listen and say, I'm here for you if you need me? But what is the line between it's like, okay, girl, and being a supportive friend?
Yeah, that answer for me has changed as I've gotten older because when your friend is in a toxic relationship, you become a part of that relationship too because it's like you're there for her when she wants to text and call and she's up late night at night tossing and turning and it's like you're thinking we finally have gotten over the man and next thing you know she's back with that man. And it's like, how many more times do we have to go through this cycle where I'm helping you dig yourself out of this situation and you continuously go back? And to be honest with you, those type of friends I've learned to sadly now be a listening ear because
Yeah.
I have learned the sad truth is not all women genuinely love and respect themselves and their bodies.
Yeah.
And I've learned the friends that do and the ones that do not. And unfortunately, the ones that really truly do not, it's like I can't tell you to, hey, do you love yourself? Do you value yourself? Do you respect yourself enough? And those type of friends, I'm just become a listening ear because it's like I get so upset and frustrated that it's like, do you not see who you truly are? And it's like clearly you don't by your actions. And so those type of friends, yeah, like I said, I just become a listening ear because I mean, they act like they're going to take your advice and then they don't, and then you're the one that leaves upset
Yeah.
while they're having the time of their life with that man again.
Yeah. I agree with that. I feel like maybe at first you're there for your friend, you feel emotionally invested.
Absolutely.
You want to support them, and then there is like a switch that flips where it's like you just start to listen and let them vent, but then that's all you can do before you're messing with your own sanity at that point. And I think that also goes back to like the helped, heard, or hugged
Yes.
thing, because clearly at a certain point people don't want to be helped and they just want
Right.
to be heard in those moments and then make their own decision.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay to stop trying to help.
Right.
And maybe that's the whole point of the 3 H's is maybe you don't waste your own time and ask from the very beginning, well, do you want advice or do you just want me to listen?
Mm-hmm.
Because that might spare you your own energy and breath.
No, literally. And the reason why I don't always tell people what they want to hear without really knowing if that's the case is because I've been in, situations with men where it's like, no offense, I'm not really coming here for advice. I just want you to make me feel better. You know what I mean? And I know I'm not over that man. So you trying to tell me to get up off of him, I'm just not ready for that, honestly. And that's the honest to God truth. So
Sometimes you
I know
literally
that.
just want to know that you're not crazy.
Right. And it's like, I know that eventually as women, you will get over that man when you're ready to get over him. So those type of friends, you just kind of have to like let them go through it and learn their lesson to where they're like, okay, I'm actually not going back this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Have you ever felt guilty for creating distance from someone who's known you forever, even if they no longer align with your growth?
Definitely. And I think the reason for the guilt is the amount of time you've known that person, because it's like you are obviously invested in the friendship when it's like 10 plus years, and you hope that it can continue and go on to 15, 20. But I think the same reason why as you get older sometimes those friendships don't last is the same reason why a lot of times relationships don't last. And it kind of reminds me of how they say like you shouldn't get married until you're 30, because it's like, yeah, your friend that you met when you were 18, you're not the same
Man.
person when you're about to turn 30.
No.
So sometimes it makes sense that a lot of those friendships, don't make it, even though they're 10 plus years,
Right.
10 plus years long. You're literally not the same person. And I feel like we're at that age right now, as far as early 30s, whatever, where, and we were,
I'm 30 now. I was like, girl, not yet. I'm like, oh, I am 30 now. Shoot. Sorry, Blake.
yes, Ashlyn just turned 30. Welcome to the club.
Jesus.
But I feel like we are at that age now, and we literally were just talking about this, about how there's people that are, where we're at. You did really dumb stuff in your late teens, early to mid, maybe even late 20s. But then, sometimes you can have friends where it's late 20s, early 30s, and they're like still doing the dumb stuff that maybe you did and learning those lessons that you learned 5-10 years ago. And I feel like, yeah, we're at that age where we're seeing that misalignment of like, what did you learn in your 20s versus what you're learning now? And also,
Yeah.
what work have you done? Because I don't think, if I didn't start therapy when I was like 25, maybe, I forget how old I was, I think I would be significantly more immature, honestly. And, some people don't get there until they're 40, or,
Yeah.
I have a family member that just started therapy and she's like 60 something, so
Wow.
yeah, I think the work you've done and the lessons you've learned, it's all happens around this age. And I think that sometimes is where you start to become misaligned and outgrow people.
Yeah. And I think that's something that honestly we didn't really hear enough about growing up is in your 20s, you change and evolve so much, but they don't talk about the friendships that you gain and lose within your 20s. Like
Mhm.
when I really think back to just my 20s as a whole decade, I'm like, wow, I have transitioned so much with different friends and whatnot, and what I value and what I like, and the way areas I've grown. And it's a hard truth because it is so hard to kind of remove yourself or not be as close to people that you've have so much history with. Like it's kind of like it really is a death, right? Because
Yes.
you start to realize that, wow, you kind of start in the same playing field. And as you continue to grow and evolve, you kind of start to see where people are at versus where you are. But like I was just saying earlier, everything is a choice, right? And there's certain choices and sacrifices that you make to grow and evolve that other people just maybe didn't want to do at that time. And, like I always say, we do not have as much time as society tells us that we do. It's like every single day counts. Yeah, you could take an off day here and there, but the way that our 20s just like where did the 20s go? You know what I mean? And I'm so glad that I didn't let, oh, I have time get to me, because now we really truly don't have time in this economy. I felt like back then maybe you had more time, but in this economy today, it breaks my heart, for people that are still trying to find themselves at 30 plus, because it's so hard out there. It's so hard out there. You know what I mean? And, I've definitely have outgrown a lot of people, especially me now coming into 30, and their love is still there. But I was just watching a video this week of basically someone saying how, I'm on this ship, but everyone has to pull their weight and everyone has to help me sell this ship. Then they were basically saying, I'm no longer making sure everybody's good. It's like, no, everyone needs to pull their weight. And I do so strongly believe with that, because, we all have that thing in the back of our mind where it's like, I'm gonna put on for my city. I'm putting everybody on my back. It's like, nah, everyone's got to pull their weight. That way we can get to even a bigger dream, because there's only so much that we can do by ourselves. But it's like, if everyone around us is putting into that pot and helping sell the ship, the sky's is the limit.
Yeah.
And that's truly how I've been feeling lately, where it's like my friends need to come with different assets and help me in certain areas that I lack. Because for me, it's like, we're at the age, it's like, well, what's the point if I'm not getting value out of you, even though you're getting value out of me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like, that's just the sad truth. So.
Yeah. No room for one-sidedness.
Correct.
Yeah. That makes sense. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to pull their weight.
Yeah. And I feel like that's not something you hear often, but I'm like, that is so true.
Yeah.
Because that's really, truly how I feel right now. What does friendship manipulation look like? Guilt tripping, keeping score, after all I've done for you, etc.
I don't think I've ever had anyone try to manipulate me in that way. After all I've done for you.
Yeah, I'm like,
no. I think the only time I feel like I've had a friend try to manipulate me would be, well, 2 instances. I think one, again, with people that are like, you know, throw rocks and hide their hand, I think would be the only time, yeah, where it's like, again, and that's why my biggest thing is accountability. Because I feel like that's the only time I've had a friend try to manipulate me, is when they definitely went out of their way to like do something malicious, and then the excuses, the deflecting, the gaslighting comes. I've definitely had a friendship breakup with somebody who was a big gaslighter.
That's hard in a friendship.
Yeah. And it was a situation where they were very petty and immature. So just like basically posting things, subbing on Instagram. And I knew they were subbing me. And I also got confirmation from a mutual friend that they were subbing me. And then I confronted them about subbing me. And it was, the gaslighting was, not everything's about you. You know, the world doesn't revolve around you. And that's gaslighting 101. It's like, I literally have confirmation that you were subbing me. Number one, who is still number one, why are we subbing people at all?
Child,
I'm sorry.
Who are you telling?
But let alone subbing your friends. You have my phone number.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the last straw for that friendship for me, because it's like, and this was also a friend that said, you know, if there's any issue, please come to me directly. Please talk to me directly. Then when I came to them directly and was like, yo, X, Y, and Z, like, what are you doing? This isn't right. Then came the subbing and the gaslighting. So it's like, I actually did exactly what you asked me to do, and it's a problem. So it's all deflection and nonsense.
Yeah. And to that, it just made me think, can you forgive a friend if they've subbed you on social media? And it's kind of like they're bringing your issues to the internet. Like, is that something that you can forgive someone for and move forward with after they've kind of publicly have put your business out there?
I think you can forgive for anything, but move forward in the friendship. For me, at this point in my life, no, because to me, that shows that you're reactive and you're impulsive. And how you can't trust somebody that is reactive and impulsive.
Yeah.
And you cannot trust somebody with your own deepest, darkest secrets. You cannot vent to somebody that you can't trust.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, sure, I can be around you, but I'm not going to want you in my business. And if that's the case, why are we friends? So for me, that is why, like, from beginning to end of that question, me saying no sounds petty, but that's why I just broke it down, because to me, that creates a lack of trust.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're going to be quick to bring our business to the internet, that means you're going to be quick to tell my business when you're mad, when you're upset, whatever, or do something to try to harm, whatever it is. So for me, it's about the fact that subbing is just immature as fuck, and I'm 31 years old.
Period.
It's very high school. But number two, to me, it's the fact that it's not even the subbing. It's you're doing that out of emotional reactiveness, and I don't trust anybody who's like that, period.
Yeah.
So, no. And also, 3, I can't. Like,
yeah.
It's just, at this big age.
Girl, I had someone subbing me recently. I'm like, to sub me at this big age is insane.
Right.
And that's why I asked you the question, because
I definitely look at that person differently. And I feel where me and this person have a very good relationship and are a long history. But after this situation, I'm like, yeah, we can't come back from this because you're constantly summing me on social media, and that's insane versus just coming to me.
Right.
Like, no, I'm not doing that.
Also, go clock in. Like, I barely have time to scroll these days, let alone type out something to sub somebody. Please go find something valuable to do with your time. And go talk to Jesus about it, matter of fact.
No,
not the
it's
internet.
so insane.
Go clock in, please.
And the thing is, people don't realize how crazy they look when they do that. Because let's be honest, some already know about the situation, and it's like, clearly you're in your feelings. I'm on mute, and you're just Miss Twitter fingers. Like, you look crazy.
Also, people look crazy when they do that to get a reaction out of somebody, and they don't react.
Never gonna react.
It's like, imagine subbing me, and I'm driving the boat in Turks and Caicos.
Literally. Posting myself. Look at that video of me in the back of the boat. Like,
literally. You're taking shots in the middle of the ocean. Imagine that. Please go clock in.
That's why I'm like, no. The key is to staying unbothered. Like, you have to. It's like misery loves company. And it's like, I'm not falling for that trap. And that was the whole goal, right? To bring me down, make me in my feelings, make me probably have a bad birthday trip. No, the show goes on.
Exactly. Exactly. Speaking of that, we will have our very first makeshift, because I'm not going to call it a full production, vlog of Ashlyn's birthday trip. Very much makeshift, very much not low budget, but the production's low budget. The trip was not low budget, but the production of the vlog is giving very much, just in the moment. But we wanted to give you guys an opportunity to see us outside of this forum and see us in real life. And so that'll be up soon. So stay tuned for that. But it'll be interesting how it turns out. But we hope, that you guys enjoy maybe seeing a different side.
No, for sure. I think it'll definitely give suburban girls in the wild. So
yes,
I'm excited.
Multifaceted.
Yeah, for sure.
Classy dinners and also Don Julio shots straight out the bottle. So
yeah, that's why I love
1942.
Hello? No, I'm like, I think that's gonna be my new go-to. It's so smooth. But yeah, definitely Turks was the perfect balance of like turn up and relaxation. So 10 out of 10 would recommend, but definitely budget for that. KK?
Yeah, literally.
Woo! So let's get into unspoken competition and jealousy. Have you ever had a friend who claps for you in public, but subtly, I cannot, how do you say that? Subtly?
Subtly?
Subtle. Wait, say it again? Subtly?
Just say low key.
Okay. Have you ever had a friend who claps for you in public, but low key competes with you in private?
Something similar. I definitely, you know what? Actually, no, kind of. Because I had a friend that would like do the jab throwing and try to embarrass you, especially when men were around. But then like, I feel like multiple times she would try to wear the same things I wore. And I don't even know if it was in a competition type of way, but you know how we've talked about before how copying is a low-key a form of jealousy? Like, yeah, she would definitely like try to borrow and take my clothes or, do similar things like that. So it's always the people that are going to hate on what you're doing, but then try and do the same thing, or hate on what you're doing because they can't do it or because they want to and they can't. I also think too, I don't know. I feel like this girl, it was weird because it wasn't even competing like for male attention, but also like female attention too.
What do you mean by that?
Like if we, if there was like a new friend, like let's say she made a new friend, brought her like into the friend group, like if anybody else started to like get close to that person, it would bother her type thing.
That's interesting because I think there are certain friends that may be jealous of when you have new friends or you spend time with other people, but that's kind of like, oh wow, that's very interesting. I don't know, I think of that, I think of right those times where, like we say, you may have a business or a passion project, and the goal now, of course, with utilizing social media is we're going to post and repost and comment on each other's businesses and endeavors that we're doing, especially when it comes to, your own personal growth and business efforts,
Mhm.
endeavors. And so those friends that, you know, they don't really show love on social media, but will maybe show love in person randomly, like, oh girl, like, yeah, I was listening to your podcast and like, yeah, I
I
like
hate that.
it.
It's like, since when did you listen? Because I've never. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And I definitely have been facing that more and more with, I think, as we continue to grow on this podcast, where I think people now are like, oh, it is kind of good. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be like, yeah, it's got some traction. I'm like,
You know, I've definitely gotten comments like that before about both, but even my own content. It's like, you know, because I feel like when you start posting and you have like no followers or whatever, but then all of a sudden people look up and they see you at like whatever, 20,000, 30,000, and they're like, oh. Because it's like, yes, you kept seeing my videos and scrolling, and then all of a sudden you looked and I actually was doing something. Like I actually was having traction, and it's like, oh, you're shocked. Yeah, because you like actually weren't following along and supporting.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a real thing, right? Fortunate, but yeah, it's definitely people make it very known.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between holding each other accountable and low-key judging one another? When it comes to friendships and the fine line between holding people accountable and judging one another, is what we were talking about earlier, is throwing jabs at people. Sometimes when I think of we're holding each other accountable, let's do that, but let's not make sure we're taking low blows or saying something else to hurt someone's feelings. Because, you know, when you start digging below the belt, that's when things, it's like we're no longer holding each other accountable, and now we're simply judging each other based on maybe some of the things I told you before about this person or this situation. And, you know, that's where I just draw the line, where it's like, okay, now you're being petty and this is no longer a discussion, right? Now it's kind of turning into a full-on fight argument.
I think it's important to hold your friend accountable, like, because when I think of accountability versus judging, I think the accountability definitely has to come in if they're genuinely like going down a path that is harmful towards them, holding them accountable for their poor decision making, but also for things that maybe are just like morally wrong. I think trying to find the line when speaking to it is very hard, because it can be hard to talk about certain things without making somebody feel judged.
Yeah, true.
You know, but I've definitely had to hold my friends accountable when they've been like dead wrong in a situation, and I hate to have to defend anybody against, or defend a man against my friends. But I've definitely had a situation where I'm like, and this was not like any sort of like physical abuse, whatever, but I've definitely had to hold a friend accountable in the past where I'm like, you completely provoked that argument. You know, something like that. And it's like, communicating that is hard, because it's like, one, you want to be a girl's girl.
Right.
You want to be on their side. But if you are actually looking at the situation for what it is, it's like, no, you were wrong.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not judging you, but it's like, I cannot sit here, and this is what we're talking about the friend that's going to hype you up and get you all rah-rah, where it's like, I feel like I'm the friend that's going to be like, no, like, you actually need to apologize for that, because that wasn't right. What is the line between, you need to leave this man because it's going to be detrimental to you? You know, I feel like you have to hold them accountable in that way if it's like they're going down a path where it's going to harm them.
Yeah.
But again, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Because how you say it is what comes off judgmental.
Right.
You know? Listen, your friends are going to do things that you don't agree with, but I think for me, that can also be the difference, is like, just because it's not something I would do, if it's not harmful to you, I don't feel like that's something you need to hold them accountable for. I feel like that's where it comes off judgy. You know?
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I totally agree with that, because it's like we all go through things, right? And we've all made dumb decisions in the past, so we can't put our other friend down for a decision that we may have made in the past ourselves, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I definitely like to hold my friends accountable, but also finding ways to, hey, we talked about this. I thought we learned from this. Like, what's going on? Why are we relapsing?
Yeah.
And, you know, I just try to give my friends also grace too. I think you do have to give your friends grace, because there are times where you can see friends regret what they did, or they're down about what they did. And it's like, okay, let's just talk through this and let's get down to the root of why do you keep making the same decision?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it goes back to being in therapy and sadly having to heal from that childhood trauma. You know what I mean? And when you start to think about why you do certain things, if you kind of get to the root of it, then you start to realize it's like, wow, that's some unhealed childhood trauma that I went through or faced when I was 5 years old, or however you may be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes me give more people grace, is when you kind of start to see like where they come from, right? And the things that they've been through. And it makes sense why some people make the decisions that they make. And so that's definitely something that you have to consider with your friends.
I think too, when you approach things with an empathetic lens, there's a difference between, girl, like he's doing this again, like you need to leave that man, and you are smart, you're beautiful, you're amazing, you deserve someone who pours into you as much as you pour into others, and God's going to bring that man into your life, X, Y, and Z. Those are both, holding that person accountable for the fact that they deserve better, but that's one sounds judgy as fuck.
Right.
So I think it's all about your approach too. But either way, either approach, over time, having to repeat that does become exhausting, you know? And it does get to a certain point where you show grace, you show support. But I've been guilty of needing to just learn lessons on my own. A hard head makes for a soft ass. But those are sometimes the only way people learn. And at the end of the day, people leave relationships or whatever when they are ready. So yeah, I think you show grace, you approach it with softness and being empathetic in your tone. And then, eventually when it gets to that point, you just become a listening ear until they, are done themselves.
And I had to learn to become that person for a lot of my friends, because, I think a lot of other friends would talk, make them feel bad or be like, girl, why are you still with that man? Like, are you dumb? And you don't ever want your friend to feel as though everyone's shutting them down and no one is listening to them, because like you were saying before, that's when they can truly hurt themselves or put themselves in a very scary situation. So my main concern with my friends is always their safety and their well-being, and where's your mental at? You know what I mean? So I definitely like to be the friend that finds a way to be the listening ear, regardless of how I truly may feel about the situation. Because I know I needed that person when I was going through my previous relationships. So I like to be that friend in return, honestly.
Agree. I totally agree with that.
How do you navigate friendships where success creates distance or tension?
Is that not a red flag?
Of course. But I feel as though when you start to achieve success and you start to see that it's creating tension in a friendship, like we talked about before, you have to learn who you can share your wins with, right? And who you can really, truly, honestly, be honest and open about your journey and what you're going through. But when I feel as though there is tension there, clearly there's some type of envy or jealousy with you and the things that you're achieving. I think that's something that you have to really reconsider and reevaluate the friendship, because you do start to see people's true colors when you are achieving certain things that they're not. But that's not a real friend, because your friend should be clapping for you regardless, because as we all know, your time eventually comes. Like, it can't always be your time. It's always someone's time. You know what I mean? And you just have to realize, like, clap for your other friends when it's their time to shine, because eventually you're literally next up. Like, it's already in the circle if it's happening for it's other friends in your friend group.
Facts.
But yeah, it's so hurtful when you start to realize that people cannot handle your success, because it's like, you're my friend. You should be happy for me just like I'm happy for you and what you're achieving in your life. But I think that's a hard pill to swallow, because you do start to see people for who they truly are once you start to achieve certain things that you want for yourself. It's like, well, this is the choice that I made for myself. You could have this too, but you didn't want to sacrifice.
I feel like this is a weird question for me, because again, and maybe I'm strict, but my mind instantly goes to, why would you want a friend like that?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want a friend where it creates tension? Distance, I could see if your success is requiring you, I guess, maybe to be more busy or less
Mm-hmm.
available. But why would you want a friend where your success creates tension?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's not a friend, I guess, which is why, yeah. It's like, how do you even, what do you mean navigate it? I don't want to navigate that.
And that's like, eh?
It's like, what do you mean? I don't want that in a friendship.
No, it's super hard for sure. What role does therapy or self-reflection play in how you now approach your adult friendships?
Self-reflection, I've always been one to do that. Yeah, I'm not one to just point the finger without pointing it this way first. You know what they say? You point one finger, there's three pointed back at you. Yeah, so I've never had a problem with self-reflection, but I think therapy, other than boundaries, because I talk about that enough, probably taught me to relinquish control and to, not that I didn't accept people for who they were, but maybe I thought I was, but more so like, you know, where you hope that people will think and behave in the way that you would have. Letting go of that control in that kind of way.
Yep.
And not being disappointed when they don't show the same level of empathy or reciprocity that you would have, or they don't, you know, react to something the same way that you would have. I think outside of boundaries, that probably was a big lesson for me in therapy, is like just relinquishing control in that way and accepting like people literally are who they are.
Yeah.
And you can't control their actions, but you can control how your reaction and how it affects, how much you let it affect you.
That was literally my answer. You know, that's something that I've really learned is you cannot control how other people respond to anything, but the only thing you can control is how you react to your own emotions, right? And that's what I've been learning, where it's like just remaining in control of your feelings and your emotions.
Yeah.
Because you really start to see people spiral once you do. So back to your point, I'm right there with you. It's so important because you leave the situation feeling so much more upset and angry. And it's like, why am I going to upset, angry about this situation? When you just remove your emotions and feelings out of it, you realize it's like, that's why the person's online talking about you, because you're in control of your feelings and your emotions where they are not.
Literally.
Like they're upset because you're in control of your emotions.
Yeah.
And that is truly the best feeling in the world because it's enough going on. I don't have time to be having beef with so many people. It's like, I'm not going to control how you're reacting to the situation. All I can do is how I respond to it. And sometimes it's hard being the bigger person and quote unquote turning the other cheek. But my God, I think I will live more life on this earth from doing that. So
stress kills. So
heck yes.
Yeah. Keeping and maintaining your peace is for the best.
Absolutely. Like that is so important to me, is my peace. Like that is always my number one priority. So I'm all for that, protecting your peace.
Lastly, today's mantra moment. A real friend doesn't dim your light, compete with your peace, or hide behind shade. Pay attention to the patterns, trust your intuition, and remember, red flags don't turn green with time. Ooh, that last part ate. I like that because I feel like I've been guilty of that in the past, is just like ignoring red flags and like writing them off, or thinking, you know, trying to give grace and allowing that person to grow, which yes, you should show grace, but yeah, pay attention and trust your intuition. Red flags don't turn green with time. Yeah, they would turn green with work, in actual work. And if somebody's not actually trying to work on themselves, ta-ta.
Yeah, I love that because that's so true. Red flags do not turn green. Just like I was saying before, you know, other people can tell you about a friend and sure enough, it turns out to be true. So
yeah,
people show you who they truly are way before we kind of cut them at times. So it's one of those things where, you know, cut it early before it cuts you when it's too deep. So
yes. Also, I just had a random thought. I'm very curious if anybody who watches us religiously has started therapy since they started watching us. I'm curious if, or even considered it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. curious about that. But let us know, DM us, email us, hit us up in the comments. Follow us on all platforms at Suburban Black Girl Pod. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.